go to the hallway. Oh, too far. All right, apologies. Taking a little bit longer than I thought I would to get the slides up. This is the WISH working group. Please do me a favor and scan the barcode or the QR code there on the screen to make sure that we get a room appropriately sized the next time we meet. There we go. Ta-da! All right, this is the WISH working group. My name is Sean Turner. Niels?
Hello.
Hello, it's a little early in the morning for you. Thanks for dialing in, man. I appreciate it. All righty, let's do the good stuff here. It's Thursday. This is not the working group. I don't know how I managed to do this. This is the Note Well. This is the policies and procedures for the IETF. Some of the things about internet standards process, as well as whether you know something about IPR, say something. There's also the anti-harassment procedures, code of conduct, copyright, etc. If you have any questions, do feel free to ask. So meeting tips. Please use the meeting tool when you get to the mic line, because that's going to help us moderate the queue so we can work seamlessly with our remote participants. Here's some additional resources. And our agenda. Basically, we're going to try to have we're going to do a little bit of an update on the drafts that we have, and then we're going to launch into the working group charter discussion. We're going to start with this because our AD is double booked and he's going to need to run away. And then we can actually talk about the individual draft, the web draft that we're in the process of looking at rechartering for. So with that, I need a scribe. Is anyone willing to take notes during this session? I do not need a blow-by-blow. All I need is actions taken. All right, anybody? Anybody going through here?
How about I do it?
You're going to do it, Niels? Oh, man.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump to Sergio's slides. Sergio, are you online? I hope so. There he is.
Yes, I'm online.
Excellent. Okay. So again, that's the draft. What I want is the actual text, which is essentially that's the GitHub repo thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did I put the wrong link? Charter. Yep, I put the wrong slides in. Let me go to the meeting tool and open them up. I apologize.
No, but what you the proposed test, the link to you have to the GitHub, if is good, because it is the same thing that I put on the slide, so it is probably easier to just check the test.
Let's do the proposed text then.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically I did a very naive rewrite of the recharter just to get the ball rolling, so we can discuss about any other change that should be needed. Basically, what I did was add the reference to the media player, so we are not only going to target broadcasting tools for support into the WISH working group, but also the media players. I have removed the reference to all the products that we have in the charter, because I don't think that I didn't felt that it was a good idea to have some names put in the charter, but some other not. So I remove it to make it also shorter. And the last thing that I do it in the charter down, I think it's a bit down, is to remove the part that we say that the ingest was the playback side was out of the scope of the charter. So I mean, this is a very naive approach, but at least to see, so we can get the ball rolling and see if anyone thinks that we need anything else in the charter to cover the playback side, or if it is good as it is, or if there is any editorial change that could be needed to it.
Yeah, so we don't have to make this hard, I think is your point. If these simple changes will get us through, that would be great, but I'll be curious to see what people have to say. Timothy?
Yeah, so Tim Panton here. I like the simplicity of this. I think the only problem is that you're widening the scope quite dramatically and without any constraints. What I liked about it previously was you saying like explicitly some things were out of scope, and now kind of almost nothing's out of scope. And so you imagine that you have some kind of wet-wit combination which turns into the generic WebRTC signaling protocol, and then you're off into reinventing SIP until you're less careful. So I feel like there needs to be a half paragraph in here which just says like, and we're not trying to solve a bunch of other problems, which you've taken out, and I think you need to put something in, if you understand me.
No, I understand what you're trying to say, but of course, my typical response here is PR welcome. So if you can provide some text, that would be really awesome, and then we could start whittling on it. Is that a fair thing?
Yep.
That'd be awesome. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Because we're definitely not trying to do that, to be clear. That is a definite stated goal that we are not trying to reinvent the wheel. So I agree that any text along that lines would be really helpful. All right, well, if that's the one comment, that's fantastic. Because if we get that text, then we can get the process started. And we can also let Murray run to his other session. All right, cool. Does that work for you, Murray, right before you run off? All right, great, cool. Fantastic. All right. I love it when we do things efficiently. Thank you again, Sergio, for the words.
No problem. Thank you.
All righty. So now we can spend the rest of our time on an individual draft, which is probably going to be adopted by the working group once we get through the charter reprocessing.
One thing, didn't we have in the agenda the WIP draft status?
Oh, yeah, I did. I did.
I didn't put I didn't put any slide for it because I thought that you had it covered, but I mean we can.
Yeah, I can do it real quick. So the draft completed working group last call. We had some revisions. That was great. Then we had Niels, and part of the process to get it out of the working group, we need to do what's called a shepherd write-up, where the working group chairs write this document up that the area director then reads before he progresses it. And we found two little things that we want to fix. And Niels nicely submitted pull requests to do those. They are very minor and editorial. So I'm hoping what you can do, Sergio, is just merge them and pump out a new version. And then we can get the working group last call started as soon as we get done with the shepherd write-up.
Yeah, I will do it after the call. So we have the draft published today.
Fantastic. And Niels, how's that shepherd write-up coming?
It's almost done. I think there's one thing left, basically. I apologize for delays.
No worries.
Earlier, but
okay, so there is still some minor changes expected?
No.
Okay.
No. So far, not. No, only these two.
Yeah,
PRs.
Yeah, I think the minor changes will be in the Shepherd write-up. Niels, you might want to let Sergio just take a read of it. Oftentimes, that's really helpful for the
Sure. Yep.
authors to get a look at it. All right, great. So we've ticked that off. And so I guess the plan is we'll have that working group last call. So Murray will take a review. He may suggest changes. He may think it's fine. It kind of depends. And then it'll start, assuming that he got the draft on Friday and he read it on the plane on Monday and he started a working group or an IETF last call, that would be 2 weeks. So that would be, and then the next step in the process is we'll get different directorate reviews from security and art and Gen Art and a bunch of other places. So we may get other little revisions along the way, but I think we're probably going to be all right. Okay, so on to WEP.
So
I put the slides in the wrong spot. That's the problem. There we go. I will update the chair slides and reload a new version. Sorry about that.
Okay, so I yesterday submitted a new version of the web draft. I tried to submit it before the cutoff date was for the IETF meeting was set, but I mean I don't know how I managed to not publish it on time, but anyway, so I published it yesterday. So here's the changes of so the link there is wrong, but if you can go to the next slide, this is the changes that have been from the web from the second version to the first version. I have backported all the changes, editorial changes that we made for the web draft during the working group last call, so they are now in line. I removed the server sent offers because there was quite a lot of feedback saying that there was not a good idea to have 2 different ways of doing the same, and this could cause like having fragmented clients and servers, in which some clients could talk to other servers, to some servers, but not to all. So I mean, I think that this was a valid danger, and so I remove it. I understand that this prevents the interoperability between WIP and web endpoints, like this interoperability feature that it was a nice to have, but I think that it is the risk is too much to consider to the benefits from the interoperability. I think that the interoperability will still be a good thing to have, but I think that we have to study it individually and not just try to raise the web spec because of this. So that's why I remove it from the draft. And then I added 2 new features that were already mentioned in the last time that I presented the web draft, that it is how to send event back from the server to the player. And this was mainly to be able to do video layer selection in order so we can have so we can have like the typical experience that you have when you go to YouTube or Twitch, when you can just check the different video resolution that are available within the live streams, and you can switch between them, maybe because you have bad coverage or because you don't want to waste bandwidth or whatever. So so that's what it is also implemented. So next slide, please. So the server send events are implemented like a extension to the protocol, like we have already specified for WIP and web. So in order to signal that the server supports this extension, then the server will include a link with the rel attribute corresponding to this new server send extension. And the client can, and also signaling the kind of events that the server is able to produce. In this first version, I have well, I basically just implemented what I have implemented in my service. So I have different events from active and inactive, meaning that that if there is a publications going on for that stream or not, the viewer count that I think that it is nice to have, that provide the numbers of viewers currently connected to this or watching this stream, and the layers that it is the information about the different simulcast and SVC layers that are available in the stream for so the client can do later choose one of them for being received. So the server signals this information to the client, and then the client may choose to create a communication channels to receive these events or not. So it is not that they are going to always be received. The client has to create one channel via an HTTP post to this resource, indicating the kind of events that it wants to receive, because maybe it doesn't support viewer count, or or it don't want to receive other events at all. So you cannot so you can choose which events do you want to consume, and then the HTTP post will provide you an URL to connect to this communication channel that that it is the name that I have put. That it is next slide, please. So this will be used a very old specification that I'm not sure if, well, I think that we are quite old here, but it's not very widely used, widely known, that it is the WGG servers and event protocols. That it is a very basic mechanism, that it is a combination on HTTP long pool and HTTP chunked requests that allows the server to just also the client does an HTTP, I don't recall if it is a post or GET request to the server, and then the server just delivers chunked data with in a simple test based protocol that containing the events, and this is then can be consumed in the natively in browsers with the event source, that it will just read these chunked formats and expose the APIs to JavaScript. As I said, this is long pool, so meaning that if the browsers will automatically reconnect if the HTTP request is disconnected, so it will do long pooling, and so it will handle everything automatically, and I think it's quite nice. So it is much lightweight that having to implement WebSocket, and I think that it fits best to the HTTP based approach that we have been following so far. So this is already supported in Dolby Millicast. So I have a public demo that I can show soon, and also we are working on a Video.js plugin to be able to consume this information from and to do the layer selection. So
I got a question for you. So do we have any issues with pointing to a what working group spec? I assume we've done this before, right, Harold? That there's not a problem with pointing to these specs where it's not, because it's not a W. I'm worried about like a normative specification to something that's, I mean, I assume we've done this before, right? I just, my only fear is if we put something in reference and then the ISG says that's not a good normative reference and we go down that rabbit hole.
Well, the what WG is its own rule set. But yes, we have done references to drafts many times before. If it's a WGC thing, then the references are supposed to clear before we move it up to rec status. So the working drafts are just working drafts there too. In the what WG, they kind of treat the working draft as the permanent spec. They call it living standards. So they're a bit different. But anyway, references to drafts are okay.
Good. Thank you for clarifying that for the chair.
So the next slide. So this is what I was talking about before about doing the video layers selection extension. Is this basically to just be able to mimic what it is already available in other streaming and players, when you can just choose. You can have the gear icon when you have the different qualities where there's that are available for the stream, and you can either choose the auto, that in our case would be that the server will choose the best available quality for based on bandwidth estimation, or you can or the player could choose to receive a different image resolution, maybe because it wants to save bandwidth, or because I mean, you are watching it on a small screen on a mobile phone, so you don't need the 4K the 4K one because you have a small device or whatever. So this is also implemented as a header as a protocol extension. So the server will signal the support with a link header with this rel extension, and then the available layer information will be sent by the server using the
Uh-oh. I think we lost Sergio there. Dun, dun, dun.
Guess we give Sergio a minute to try to reconnect. Maybe Jonathan.
I'm here again. So I'm so sorry, Chrome crashed.
No worries. Jonathan?
Yeah, I was going to ask, so how does the client, you say the client can choose, how does the client communicate its choice?
With an STD post to this URL.
Oh, I see. So you do a post to the layer and then, okay. So this is not in the SD, it's entirely separate from the SDP.
Yep.
Okay. And is it the server's responsibility to do a clean transition, like, you know, no transition until you get a keyframe and things like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Julius?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried. Is the server allowed to pick a layer that is lower than the one that the client requested? I mean, assume that the server's congestion controller indicates that it cannot do what the client requests. Can it choose a lower layer? I don't see where it says in the draft that it can.
One question is why would the server refuse it? I mean, just try to understand the reasoning.
Congestion control. So the server is performing congestion control, and the congestion controller indicates that the bandwidth is insufficient. What does the server do? Does it ignore the congestion control indications?
Good question. I would assume so. Yeah. I mean, but it could be an implementation detail from the implementation details from the servers. But I definitely, at least in my server, I override the bandwidth estimation from the server because it may be inaccurate, and I just return whatever it is requested by the client.
So you become a rigid flow. As soon as this extension is used, you become a rigid flow, and you don't obey congestion control indications. It does make me a little bit uncomfortable.
Well, I'm doing it anyway. I mean, so I'm not sure if you're uncomfortable or not, but I'm doing it. if we need to put it in a spec or not is something different. But again, I mean, it's. Yeah.
So I would suggest at least giving the license to the server, explicitly giving license to the server to use a lower layer than what the clients requested.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
All right, Jonathan.
Sorry, something weird happened there. I'm not going to say you're not going to have a good time in the IESG if you say ignore congestion control. That's going to be make you very unpopular with the transport layer. Use and discusses.
Yeah, please don't. Yeah, please don't say that. That'll guarantee 2 discusses from the transport 80s.
Yeah, I mean, but we have not. I mean, we have had circuit breakers in RTP, so that can be applied. But this doesn't mean that so this still applies, but it doesn't mean that we have to honor the bandwidth estimation that could be a bogus one. So circuit breakers still apply, but nothing. I don't think that there is any kind of mandatory things to. Well, in fact, we don't have good bandwidth estimation yet for servers in IETF. So.
Harald Ovestran. Just as I understand WEP, it does not modify WebRTC in any way. And in WebRTC, it's perfectly legal to try to send something at a very high resolution, and the result is that the high resolution does not arrive because of lack of bandwidth. So this should be specified as if you ask for a layer, well, the server will attempt to send you that layer, and the rest follows WebRTC rules.
Yep.
Excellent. Bernard?
Yeah, I would also mention that in the case of scalable video coding, you know, that you have to send the dependencies. So you can just ask for a layer, but you may not be able to decode it. So I think you have to be a little bit, if you're gonna, you have to be a little bit careful about this, because ideally, yeah, and there's a lot of things the client would have to know, like when it asks for something, is it saying, you know, that you want the other layers to be turned on, you know, the ones that it depends on. So I think you have to be a little bit careful about the semantics here. It may not make sense.
Yeah. I mean, but I think that it makes sense to say that the server may try to send the resolution that has been requested by, but it obviously we have to double check the specific details with SBC about what does it mean with the dependent layers, and in simulcast what happens if well, I'm not sure if we have to implement this kind of details in the spec itself, or if it's something that we have to just leave as implementation, or just as rely on the SBC spec of each codec about what needs to be done, and probably we just need to say that the server may not send a specific the layer that it is requested by a lower one because of whatever reasons.
Julius, go ahead.
So I'm definitely in favor of giving non-normative implementation guidance. A lot of people who are not WebRTC specialists and a lot of people who are not network programming specialists are going to implement that spec. And I think that the more implementation guidance we give, the better.
Yeah, the problem is how to put something that it is not normative in the spec.
Just use non-normative language. It's done all the time.
Yeah, but I think that Niels was the one that raised this before, and then how we have been doing this in the past is that it was like it was in a different document or something like that for best practices or something like that, right, Niels?
Sorry, I do not recall what you're referring to.
Okay, no problem.
So you can either use non-normative language in the body text or you write a non-normative appendix. I think
Yeah,
either will be fine.
my problem is that maybe what you think that it is an implementation guideline, can be opposed to what I think that it's a good implementation. So if it is not normative, it may be difficult to agree on what should be implemented or not, or what is the guidance to the implementation, because I may have something that it is completely different and I don't agree with it. So I think that agreeing on the normative is easy because it is normative, so we have to do, everyone has to do it, but my implementation may be completely different to yours. So that's why I'm not sure if it is easy to get to an agreement on the implementation details. And also it is like a rabbit hole. When do we stop about specifying what the guidelines or for implementation? So it's it could be easy to that someone keeps complaining that we have not given enough guidance to implementators, and we never end up because it is never enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of the wording, you can say, if you say it as something like, implementations can, or something like that, or, might wish to, or something like that. If you phrase it in that sort of way, it'll be pretty clear it's not normative language. It should be clear to anybody reading it. Now, in terms of how much to put in, I mean, that's a separate question. I mean, that's obviously an editorial decision. And obviously, we don't want to leave it open forever, but we also, if there are specific things we think, that the implementation community we're looking at is going to be confused by, maybe it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I am agree. And I am okay to put this in this way. What I don't want is the draft to be not being able to be accepted or something, because someone thinks that we have not given enough guidance. So I think that putting these kind of notes in the spec is good, but I don't think that. But it has happened in the past that we have not agreed on a draft because someone thought that we have not given enough the guidance. So I think that the guidance is something that it is kind of optional. So the more that we give, the better. But it is nothing. No, I don't think that we can. It can be a requirement for writing the draft.
Bernard?
I think what you're actually trying to do here, Sergio, is to set parameters on the server essentially. So and there'll be a lot more stuff that you could do there. For example, you could set the scalability mode that the server sends, and as Harold said, then it could drop layers as it wants. But there'll be coming a whole series of things that you might be able to do, like allocate bandwidth to various layers to turn them on and off. So I think essentially what you're doing is you're sending a set parameter string that you want the server to set, and that might be a better defined way to do this, because the WebRTC spec API will tell you what the effect of that's going to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of, because I mean the problem is that we have we have the same stream for forwarding to different viewers, so we are not changing what the encoder is sending. Just we are changing. We are just doing a layer selection as we do in SVUs. So the viewer can receive a different or a subset of what it is being by the publisher. So we are not really going to change what the publisher is sending. It is just or either choose a different simulcast layer, so we can choose between the encodings that it is being sent in simulcast, or if it is a single, or for example, for BP8, we could choose a simulcast layer and also a temporal layer within a simulcast ID, a simulcast stream, a simulcast layer. Or if we are going for full SVC, we can choose the max, the spatial layer and the temporal layer to receive. And so, what does the server is required to do in each of the cases? It depends. Well, for simulcast, it is easy to implement, but for SVC, it will be harder because each codec has a slightly different approach. So it may be also kind of implemented or implementation defined by the server. So also take note that the player can only choose between the layers that are sent back by the server. So the server has to first make available to the client the layers that it can switch to. So this technicality has to already be handled by the servers, and maybe if the SVC is and expose only the changes that he's able to do based on the stream that he's receiving.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are ways to define that. I mean, essentially, what you're doing is like as an example, you're turning on. There's an active parameter and set parameters. You're turning that on and off to get the simulcast layers or not get them.
Mhm.
And there will be a similar thing possibly in SVC. We'll see how that goes in there. Anyway, just something to think about.
Yeah.
All right, I just went ahead and went to the next slide. I assume we kind of wrapped up on that one. And I think Sergio, I think your point on we're not going to wait forever. If people do come with suggestions for implementation guidance text, then we can get agreement. Great. If we can't, then we just leave it out. So I think if you can put some words in to address this particular point, that'd be great. But we won't expect to wait forever.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely. I mean, I think that for example, putting normative text that the server may not or send a lower resolution than the one that has been requested by the client. I think it's a good idea. And if anyone has implementation guidelines to be added to the draft, I mean, they are welcome. But I don't want. I don't.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not.
I wouldn't feel comfortable by someone arguing that there is no implementation guidelines without providing them.
Yep. Okay. Great.
So this is the same slide that I put in the last meeting. I mean, so that web has still more functionality than web. I have tracked the last two ones, but there are still some other things that we will have to add features, like for example, or try to see if we can implement it or not, like pause or mute commands, multi-language for audio and video, so to be able to have like the client to select the different languages that are available in the stream, or even metadata or subtitles. This will be for next version of the draft. So so for the next steps, I think that we should when the working group has been recharted, I think that we should try to make a call for adopting the web draft as a working group item. And in the meantime, I will continue working on defining the protocol extension to for adding the missing features that have been explained in the previous slide.
All right, it sounds like an excellent plan. Because the quicker Tim can get some text in there, the quicker we can get this the working group charter changed. And luckily there's not another web protocol on the horizons, so there won't be any competition. So this could be pretty easy. And I'm hoping that in a month we'll have, maybe 2 months, we'll have this all done, so that when we meet next time in California, we'll actually be talking about WEP as a working group draft. So unless there's anything else, I think we're going to be wrapping it up. Going once, going twice. Thank you very much for attending the WISH working group at IETF 116. Thank you for dialing in from around the world. Have a great day. I did notice it was late, so I couldn't make you take notes. You could not possibly have been surprised.